Alright, before it gets too dark to record, I'm going to do a little on-the-road review of my Tutoro chain oiler. It's an automatic chain oiling system. It's not like a Scott oiler that uses vacuum, or the newer Scott oilers that have an electrically driven device that pumps them or runs them. This is an inertia driven device. So this thing in here, if you look at the top, there's a weight. If I were to take this cap off, I'm not going to do that out here, but if you were to take this cap off, there's a weight under there, and as you go down the road, as the bike is jostled, that piece moves up and down. And this is your adjustment valve right here, and then tubing runs down, and your oiling tip goes up against the sprocket at around the 7 o'clock, 6 or 7 o'clock position is what they recommend, the 7 o'clock. Some people use the twin feed nozzle. I didn't really see the use. The single feed nozzle on my bike so far has lubed the chain just fine. The chain, every time I stop, is plenty wet. In fact, it took me a while to get the adjustment right. And if you look back here on the back of my bike, you can see how oily everything is. I'm going to complete a 1,500 mile trip tomorrow. The reservoir was full when I left, and as you can see, it's empty, and I'm using up what's left in the feed tube right now. Part of that is because I had it adjusted improperly. If I would have had it adjusted to where I have it now, when I started the trip, I'd complete this trip with plenty of oil left over. I had the valve open about a half turn, which is way too much when it's warmer, and it flowed a lot of oil. As soon as I noticed I was over oiling, I turned it down to about a quarter turn. Actually a little less. It's probably about an eighth of a turn right now, and that seems to flow enough oil to keep the chain wet, but also conserve fluid in the reservoir. That in the tube might actually be enough to get me home tomorrow, considering this thing's been empty most of the day, and it's just now got that far down the tube. My only gripe with it so far, and I've heard a few other people have this problem, is if you look, you see that orange spot in the back of the reservoir. That's actually where a crack formed. I had went out to the garage. I'd been doing some work on the bike, adjusting the fast idle system, and the bike was sitting there in the garage idling for quite a while I was messing with the fast idle system. And I noticed there was a small puddle of the chain oil underneath my bike, right underneath the oiler. So I started looking around on it, and there was a crack that had formed. Right down through here, it formed a J-shaped crack. And Tutoro actually has a section on their website that talks about a J-shaped crack. And I contacted them about it. They were pretty sure that I had used improper oil. That wasn't the case. I was using their oil. And he said that the position where it's at, it may have gotten hit by something and cracked. I don't think so, because it didn't start leaking until it was sitting in the garage idling, and there was heat coming off the back side of the engine here. It was pretty warm back there. I think it was just this cap up here expanded, because that's where the crack started, and popped the reservoir. I RTV'd it. I still got to send an email to Tutoro. They said that they're going to send me free replacement reservoir. Even still, you can get the parts for this pretty cheaply, from what I understand, through Twisted Throttle, I think is what somebody told me. I'd have to verify. But other than that cracking issue, I've been happy with it. It's kept the chain oiled, and we'll see if I get double or a quarter or 25% more mileage out of it. Like some people have been claiming that they've been getting like 30,000 miles out of their chains using auto chain oilers. In the past, I've used a Scott oiler on an FZ6, and it actually worked pretty good. But I couldn't find a spot where I could put the Scott oiler on this bike where I liked it, so I was just going to lube it by hand. It's not that big of a deal. And I was kind of skeptical of how the Tutoro operated. Now that I've used it, I liked it. I'm going to keep it on there. I'm going to have to probably fiddle with that adjustment a little bit. I think 1/8 of a turnout for their oil in mild temperatures, 70s, 80s, is going to be fine. I may have to actually back it down some more during the full-on summertime. I don't know if I'm going to keep using their oil or if I'm going to use their suggestion for an alternative oil, which is hydraulic fluid. If you can look on their website for that, for the specific hydraulic fluid that they recommend. But I might try that because you can get it pretty in bulk. But their oil is really not that pricey, and it should last a while if you have it adjusted properly. And it doesn't really need that much oil, as long as the chain looks wet whenever you're done riding. That should be plenty of oil without flinging it all over the back like I've done on my bike. Nearly all of this excess fling off back here came from the first day of the ride. And this is day 4 on the road. Tomorrow will be day 5. Most of that came from the first day on the road whenever I had it half a turn out. And yeah, it ran through half that reservoir bottle in about 400 miles. So yeah, I'm glad I got it turned down, but fill it up whenever I get home. But that's my review on it so far, other than that crack in the reservoir, which they've agreed to replace the reservoir for me for nothing. I've been happy with it. So if you're looking for a good auto oiler that is not going to be a $300+ electronic one, I think that's how much they cost. It's been a while since I've looked at them. They may have come down in price. There you go. I want to say that is less than $100 shipped from England. I want to say it was closer to 80. I'd have to double check, but there you go. Tutoro chain oiler. Have a good one.